Gentlemen, thanks for joining us for this week's version of On the Range, otherwise known as the Weekly Roundtable. But since we're over here on the Range Report and not the Liberty First Foundation YouTube channel, we're switching it up a little bit. I'm here as usual with one of my co-hosts and the Dragon of New York, formerly the Dragon of the Southern Tier, but now he's expanded. Only his reach, not his weight, Michael Vasquez, the only true independent journalist in the industry today. I'm your host, Frank Johnson, the host of The Range Report, co-founder of the Liberty First Foundation. We may have a couple of other guests stopping in. We're only going to go for an hour this evening because I'm recovering from some injuries and can't really keep my head straight. I'm tired and I'm in a lot of pain, but that's beside the point. So we're going to try and jam-pack a whole bunch of shit into a very short window of opportunity here. So,
well, before we get any further, I got to ask, are you... Some people may not be aware. You recently had a medical emergency, and are you okay? Are you recovering?
I'm recovering. I'm a little screwed up right now. I had to go into the hospital on Sunday. I had been suffering from some extreme pain and paralysis from my shoulders up. As it turns out, some spinal situation that I've had suffering for the last 2.5 years seems to have been manifesting itself in other locations within my spine, spreading its joy throughout my body. And then, as it seems right now, I have 3 brand new bulging discs in my neck with a whole bunch of issues. And I woke up Sunday morning at 3 a.m. I heard something make a little noise, and all of a sudden there was an excruciating pain, and I couldn't move. And it took me a couple of hours to get myself mustered up and just into a seated position where I could actually kind of assess what was going on. I couldn't even lift my arms up over my shoulders. There was so much pain I was in. And eventually had to go over to the hospital, where they pump me full of every goddamn drug known to man, and nothing really takes effect because I have a very high threshold for medications. Just my body resists medication for some reason. Nothing really works that well. And they wound up putting me into a CT scan. Now, thank God they have one of these new CT scans at the hospital here. They have the fat guy CT scan. It's not the tiny little 12-inch donut that they stick you in. Now it's actually a rather large circle, because I'm sort of like a medical misfit. I had reconstructive surgery several years ago on my sinuses to deal with sleep apnea. And in the process of doing that, I now can't lay flat on my back without my sinuses starting to drain, and I almost start drowning into my own head. So I have to sleep in an elevated position, and I'm claustrophobic, like super claustrophobic. So if you lay me flat on my back and slide me inside of a tube, and then the top of that tube is right up against my face, you better put me out. The last time I had a CT scan, I actually had to have an anesthesiologist put me out and have a respiratory doctor there to make sure that I was breathing properly during the CT scan, because it was going to be a very long, extensive one, and it was going to be of my mid and lower back at the time. So I was fully immersed in the machine. This one, fortunately, I only had to be in a little bit. And like I said, it's a big machine. So I was able to, they were able to prop me up in a way where I could breathe and not have like a panic attack. Yeah. So I was very fortunate with that. And they were like, they came out and they're like, we gave you this drug, gave you that drug, gave you this one, gave you that one. Unfortunately, everything they give you in the hospital, it's like it runs its course very quickly, and then it's out of your body quick. There's nothing long term. Because it's basically they have to find something that works to alleviate the pain and relax the muscles and stuff like that. And nothing they gave me worked. And they ran through everything in the hospital. And they're like, we don't see anybody who this doesn't work for. So you're going to have to just go home and grin and bear it. Like, okay. So, I mean, one of the things they gave me, it made me warm and fuzzy, but it didn't alleviate the. I'm warm and fuzzy anyway. I didn't really need the drug to be that way, but at least it sort of mellowed my mood a little bit. But since then, I'm walking around. I'm walking around the house. Thank Lori's been a saint. She's been taking really great care of me to try and make sure that I'm moving. She's putting those pain patches on me, hitting me with the massage thing, and it's when you're so used to being able to do something and all of a sudden it gets taken away from you at one time, it's really frightening. It's very because I don't know what's happening. I can understand if I was outside splitting wood or breaking up concrete or moving sheetrock around and doing some of the stuff I used to be able to do. And then you hurt yourself. You're like, oh man, I pulled a muscle. This you kind of know what it is. But to be asleep and all of a sudden, you're hit with a truck and you can't move. You don't know what's going on. And with the history I've had with this previous back issue, where the doctors have said I have serious compromising in my spine with discs pushing up against it and there being some stenosis and some other stuff, I'm like, okay, did I just break something? Did something cut loose? What happened? You don't know. I got to say, though, the doctors where I was at the facility, great care. The nurses, the practitioners, everybody over there, they were very understanding, very, very friendly. They're really top-notch folks over there. I'm really happy with the care I got. It's just I just wish the healing process was a little bit quicker because I still can't turn my head to the left, and I can't look up, and it's still the same. A little less pain than what I was in. It's just I have just a limited. I feel like Michael Keaton in the first Batman movie when he was in that stupid costume, and he had everything he did was like this because he couldn't he couldn't move. That's how I feel minus the costume. So
you're trying to tell us you're Batman.
Batman. Well, I do have the Batman. I do have the Batman mask, but it was made for a much smaller individual than me. So when I put that thing on, it's like my lower face just like sort of. It's like, I gotta get a larger costume. That's for sure.
I would think so. Yes. All right. Well, I wanted to make sure you're okay. I mean, that's like.
No, I appreciate the concern. Like I said, the last 2.5, 3 years have been very, very difficult. People don't realize, fortunately, when it comes from a health standpoint, my health is fine. My health is very good. I mean, everything. I have some issues I got to deal with blood pressure and diabetes and stuff like that. But that's almost like run of the mill at this point. So many people suffer from blood pressure and diabetes, and it's so common. It's not like there's going to be a lot of complications that you have from that. But I'm having musculoskeletal issues that have not been resolved. I've had to have surgery on my ankle to get my leg working back. That was unsuccessful. So I'm I can't go up and down stairs the way I used to. I can't pick things up. I can't put things down. I'm a guy that used to be able to run 3 sheets of 5/8 sheetrock, in one hand, put on my shoulder and run them up a staircase 3 and 4 at a time, at a full sprint. Now I go out to the car. I bring a 6-pack of soda in the house. It's a pain in the ass trying to carry it. I can't go up and down the stairs without having one hand on the rail. And it's been demoralizing. To be able to have so many limitations and have to give up on so many things that I was already in the process of doing. I was starting to get into, training to compete and doing some other stuff. My weight was down. I was feeling good. I was looking good. Now it's like, it's just a lot to deal with.
No, I get you.
But it's all right. At least my government is keeping me entertained.
Well, that's one word for it. Although, if we're talking about Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, I was impressed. I loved that speech. Did you get to hear the full speech. It's about
I
45 minutes long.
I heard about half of it. I heard about half of it, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. I'm not really sure. I caught the keynote parts of it, which were fantastic. You know, I got to say, I mean, this was
the whole thing was a keynote.
It was. It seemed to me as a layman, somebody who didn't serve. Now you're a Marine, and I know you spent a lot of time in the barracks, a lot of times with drill sergeants and all the rest of the stuff. This almost seemed like the kind of speech that you wouldn't necessarily expect to have on a stage, but you would more or less have to have like from a commanding officer to his direct troops, or like in the barracks. It was a gritty, very, very personal base. It seemed like I'm going to be in your face about this right now. You know, it was.
Well, it's not because if this were your commanding officer or the base commander talking to troops, it would be more harsh, or at least back when I served, and that goes back to 86, 90 in there. So very different military then, in particular the Marine Corps, than what we see today. Although the Marine Corps hasn't changed. It has changed, but not as dramatically as the other services. They have been radically changed. And that's why the speech was there. It is very uncommon in a peacetime for that many generals to be in one place, being basically talked down to. What we call it in the military is standing tall. In the Marine Corps, you say that a lot. You're standing tall. That's basically when you're called in because you screwed up, and you stand at attention, and you get yelled at for a while. And usually with words that I can't use you use on YouTube, I don't. It's pretty, at least for the Marine Corps, as I was in it, it's pretty strict. Now, you're talking to generals. It's on video. It's very public. So he's being far more diplomatic. But I can imagine prior to this moment and subsequent to it, there's a bunch of generals that were definitely being yelled at and told, screw you. Specifically the ones that are going to either get fired and or decide to quit based on that speech. But it was very much it kind of was like going back to boot camp in a way, because it was meant to motivate. It was meant to get back to basics. It was meant to refute the trend that we have seen for a warmer, fuzzier, more emotional. I have two moms, and I decided to join the Army. I went into the Army so I could learn how to become a chef. Kind of stupidity that should never have been in the military.
Well, maybe that's what I was getting at. It's like in the past few years when I've seen secretaries of defense, were now secretaries of war, make these addresses to the troops or to the command structure and stuff like that, whether it be under Biden or under Obama or even under the Bush regime at the time. They had a more touchy-feely sense of talking to people, I think, because they were trying to usher in that weakened sense of military, where this has been, hey, listen, this is the United States military. You're not here because we're trying to pander to your preferred pronoun. We're here to be the best at killing the enemy, and that's what our job is.
That's the job. And he said it, and he did say that. That's the job. Right. We kill people, and he's right.
And that's
we break stuff and kill people. Yeah,
right. And that's such a departure. Seeing this speech from the ones in the past, that it reminded me a lot of Sergeant Hartman talking to the troops, at boot camp. And it was
the movie Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, that's how much of a difference it was in the demeanor that Hegseth had versus versus somebody else who's been in that position.
But you know why I laugh about that, and many Marines would. R. Lee Ermey was a drill instructor and a very good one. That's why he got the role. And by the way, little trivia from that movie, Full Metal Jacket, when he's first walking down the line with all the troops, and by the way, that really does happen. In fact, everything he did to them are things that really happen to recruits in Paris Island. I know personally for a fact that happens. It was that every time they did a new take, he did new insults. He had a whole new line of insults for everybody he spoke to. So he didn't go back to the same thing. He gave them something new to insult the hell out of them. And it was beautiful, which is why you get the reactions kind of like he did. And that's real. That's what you get. And Hegseth, I mean, imagine the generals have been called, generals like Milley are they're ineffective. They're horrible. And I personally think General Milley is a traitor to America. And I've said that publicly before for his actions. But you had a culture where Milley is promoting and bringing leadership from top down to mold people to be more like him. And here comes Hegseth saying that's out. In fact, we're gonna make sure we're going top down and bottom up. That's all out. He literally said, and I loved it when he said this, because this is what I went through, and every Marine in my generation and before. He said drill instructors are going to go back to what they call shark tanks. They're going to go on back to the hands-on loving care that they provide in basic training. That's what I got. Hands-on conversations with the drill instructors. I'm making it sound as nice as I can because it was anything but. We got hit, and not a big deal because we're not there to be policemen. We're not training to be nice guys. And if you couldn't handle that, and I'm not talking about abusive, because people think, oh, they're just beating you over the head with a stick. No, although I'm sure some people deserve that, and I can only think of one person in my platoon that got that, and he's kicked out because he really got people killed. But that's what we need, because that's what put fear into the rest of the world. In particular, we're talking places like China and Russia, nations that want to kill every single American. Part of why they stayed calm and never wanted to mess with us anywhere in the world is because we were trained the best, and little things like DEI didn't exist. You know, there was no DEI. There was no feelings. I don't care what your pronouns are. You're slime, you're a rock, you're a private, you're whatever your rank is. I could care less what you personally feel at any given moment because it's immaterial to the job. And whether you like it or not doesn't matter because the mission is what you're here for. That's it. For everything else, throw that crap out the window. I don't want to hear it. I love that he said, you know what? This isn't, and I know a lot of people are looking at it going, oh my God, he hates women. Women can't be in the military. He never said that. He said, here's the standard. This is the bar. This is the minimum. And if you cannot make that bar, no matter what your rank, he was saying that to the generals on down. Everyone does PT. Everyone gets the exam. Everyone passes the bar. If you cannot do that, you are out. And that's the way it should be. That's why every Marine is a basic rifleman. Everybody has the bar. Men, women, period. Here's the bar. You can do it. If you can't pick up the pack and quick march 15 miles, you're out. Because that's what the job requires. Not if you do more, great. If you can't do that, you are out. Because that's what it takes. When you get on the battlefield, that's what you're going to do under fire, and people will die if you can't. I love this. I love that we are getting back to a military as opposed to college 3.0, an ROTC. That's not what we are. So,
well, I mean, we have to look at the military as a machine.
It is.
Everything in that machine has got to work exactly the way it's supposed to be, in a timing way, in a sturdiness way. Everything has got to be able to rely on something else. I mean, one of the old sayings is that the military moves on its stomach, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to have your supplies. You have to have your support staff. Everything that your military is going to do is going to rely on that in order to get the job done. Now, if somebody says, oh, they're a cook in the military. All right, well, people aren't going to put a whole lot of emphasis on somebody being a cook in the military. But the cook in the military is feeding a lot of people, right? Hundreds of people. He or she's got to be really good at doing what they do, because the rest of the job depends on how they get fed, how they get, everything. If you're building a car engine and every piece of whether from the valves, the springs, the camshaft, your crankshaft, every single thing has got to be the best parts that you could put in that machine. They all have to be matched for durability, for quality when you put it all together. Because if you have one component in that machine that is substandard, that's the part of the machine that's going to fail, and it's going to destroy the rest of the machine.
Yeah,
and if you put
one other thing about that, all the parts have to be interchangeable, which means, and in this respect, which a lot of people don't realize, that's why so many people in the military were upset about trans. That's not an interchangeable component. That isn't standard issue. That isn't compatible with the mission of the military. You can be trans. That doesn't mean you get to be military, because you can't.
No, but
our military can't do that. That no military.
No, but like I said, but if you're putting a motor together and you got all your pistons together and you're using steel pistons for your motor, and you throw an aluminum piston, just because it looks the same way, might be able to do certain things the same way, but it doesn't hold up as well as the other one, or it's not made of the same material, the same strength. It doesn't have the durability, the length of life, or anything else. And it reacts differently under certain circumstances. Aluminum and steel heat and expand and contract at different rates at different intervals under heat and stress. You can't mix align those parts. You have to have the right parts in the right places. Everything's got to function properly. And then when you put it all together, you have to use good lubricant. You have to use good fuel. Because no matter how good all of the parts are, if the things that ignite and spark and keep it running and keep the machinery going are substandard, it doesn't matter how good the parts you put in there, the engine is going to fail. And the same thing is with the military. You've got to have above standard components in order to make it work properly. And our military only has one job, and that is to kill. Or that's what the military is for. Whether it's killing in an offensive fashion or a defensive fashion, that's what they are trained to do. They are trained to kill an enemy, trained to kill a threat. And if you cater to emotions, you cater to sexuality, you cater to this, you cater to that, you're not catering to the function of the military. You're losing sight of the objective, of what the objective is. Now, if you remember, you go back and you remember the movie G.I. Jane, right? And I know it's a movie. I know it.
Yeah, it's definitely a wish list leftist film. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But understand the premise of G.I. Jane.
It's a miserable premise. I don't accept it. It's absolutely trash.
No, but the one thing about it is they didn't lower the standards so she could pass SEAL training.
True, and again, that's part of why it's a fantasy. But yes, to the credit of the movie, she theoretically was able to do what a SEAL needs to do.
Right, they wanted to leave in place the part of the movie is this is a mountain so high that she can't climb it. She's got to muster up everything to climb that mountain in order. Well, you know what? That's what it's supposed to be.
Yes,
that's what it's supposed to be.
Meritocracy.
If you're training a team of guys and men and women who have to break down doors and go into buildings, clear a building, and kill everybody who's inside of it. And it takes you 500 pounds of force to kick a door in. Everybody on that team, whether it's the guy who's carrying the heavy guns or the light guns, or the guy who's carrying the radio, every one of them's got to be able to kick in that 500-pound door. If you got somebody who's only going to kick in 150 or 250 pounds of stress, the only thing you're doing is knocking. You're knocking on the door. You're not right. You're not getting through it. Everybody's got to.
It's worse than you're not getting through. Someone's dying.
Yeah,
that's one of the things everyone, from a civilian point of view, because your analogy so far have been very correct, but the part that and why it was so important for Hegseth and Trump to emphasize this, and when you don't, people die. It is that's failure. That's the ultimate failure. You screwed up, they're dead.
Right, and that's and the other factor that a lot of people don't really put into this thing is how important the sense of teamwork has to be among the men and women who actually fight. Whoever it is who's on that front line, in that foxhole, in that tank, in that helicopter, on that plane, whatever it is got to be able to, should not have to look to their left or right and wonder to themselves, is this person next to me capable of doing the job as well as I am? Are they capable of saving my life or the life of the people that are around me? You can't think. You've got to have supreme confidence.
You have to
implicitly know. You've got to have so much confidence in that person that they can get the job done in your stead. They've got to be able to do everything that you do. You got to be everything that they do. And you have to have confidence. If you don't have confidence in that person, that's going to take away from you what your job is going to be. How many people have wound up because there's been somebody who couldn't do the job? How many people have wound up gotten killed because they've had to hesitate? They've had to think twice. They've had to go back. They've had to go grab somebody who couldn't get it done. They've had to do something that somebody else should have been able to do.
Well, I'll give
Why would it take two people to have to drag that guy off the battlefield when it should only take one? Now, instead of having two people at risk, you have three. Why? Because you have somebody who wasn't capable of doing the physical requirement of that job. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it had to be a woman. You could have a weak-ass man who doesn't belong in the military.
No, this is meritocracy. If you can't do it, it's not male, female. It's not trans.
It's got nothing to do with it.
If you can't do the job, you get people killed. I'll give a great example of. Here's an example of someone who, when I was in basic training, when I was in Parris Island, we had a guy. I remember him. I remember his name. We had a couple of guys that washed out. One guy got a blanket party. And Marines will know what that means. Think of the movie with Tom Cruise. A
Few Good Men.
A Few Good Men, yes. Which the general was correct in that, but that's Jack Nicholson's general was correct. But besides that, we had one guy. His name was Gamzon. Okay, and Gamzon recruit. It was an example of what we have in the military now. Gamzon was a complete and utter fuck up. I gotta say, and he should never be a Marine. He should never be in the military. Whatever he went on in life to do, I hope he was a great success. Thank God he's not in the military. Gamzon's parents sent him into the Marines so that he could become a man. Literally, those are the literal words that his father gave him a note for his drill instructor to said exactly that. Gamzon was the worst piece of crap in the entire unit, and he was a really sad example of a male or a human being. But the thing that got him kicked out of the Marine Corps, dishonorably, was we were on the rifle range, and we had live rounds, and we had been trained. This, the M16 will kill Marines. Yes, they're training us to be ultimate killers and hoorah. I get it. But we were on the rifle range with live rounds. And we were told, it was drilled into us clearly, if anything goes wrong, you do not move. You raise your arm and you stay in position. You do not move that rifle. You do not try and dislodge it, dislodge the bullet. You don't do anything. You raise your hand. You stay there until somebody gets to you, no matter what. Take an hour. It doesn't matter. You're going to stay right there. Gamzon with a clip in and loaded, and God help us, we were live firing. And he decided he had a hang fire, of course. And he decided we were in the prone position, laying flat. He decided to turn, and I imagine I'm holding the rifle. He said, so he takes his rifle and he's like, this, leans on up, turns that way, turns around, gets his hand back on the trigger, and turns around to the guys behind him and says, hey, guys, I got a bullet in here. Everyone is screaming. Everyone is ducking down, looking for cover, praying to God this thing doesn't go off. We got a bullet cooking down in the barrel, and we don't know when it's going to go off. He endangered everybody's life. When we came back, he had to run rings as we marched back at double time. He had to run with his rifle over his head around the entire unit, the whole platoon, and had to march. We were marching double time back to the barracks after we got off the range. He and the drill instructor had special words while the rest of us were occupied. And then he got to sleep that night. He got a blanket party. And then he got bounced out. Kicked him out. In the modern Biden-Obama style of military, they would have kept him.
Yeah, he'd be second lieutenant.
He'd kill people. He'd get people dead. So I'm so happy to know that the Gamzons of the world will not make it into my Marine Corps or any of the U.S. military. So for all the people who are like, oh my God, it was so scary. Listen to them. They want to go to war. You have no idea what the hell you're talking about. You don't know how to win a war. And the only reason why you don't know those things is because we have had an effective military that never made it possible for you to know. Thank God. Be happy. This is why you get to say, I don't like it.
No, I just have to laugh. I was looking at, as you guys know, my dad was a Marine, and he was stationed 8th and I, and one of my father's duties during his tenure as a Marine, the Marines that take care of the president?
Yeah, President's own. Yeah.
Right.
Great.
That was my dad was one of those guys. All right. I have presidential memorabilia in this house from Dwight Eisenhower, whom my father was personally assigned. And I was looking at some pictures, and I saw pictures of Eisenhower as he was retiring out of the military, getting ready to enter political life. He's in his full, he's got his uniform on, and he's got this one little string of ribbons across his chest, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a guy who was one of the most revered generals in military history. One little patch of ribbons over there. And I look at a picture of Millie the other day, and this guy's got enough salad on his chest over there. It goes from his lapel to his midsection. The guy's never won a war.
Yeah.
The guy's never. Yeah, he's never been in a combat zone where he's actually come out on top, and he's got more awards. I'm like, what are they giving these little ribbons for?
Well,
is it like Cub Scouts now?
No,
they have one for tying knots and.
Well, one, it's the Army, so they give out a lot of medals, but it's also a result of what we've been seeing happening in the military for a couple of decades now, and it's like Tim Walz, with the false valor. Thank God he never got. He shouldn't be governor. He shouldn't be in any elected office. But that's my opinion. Him and Millie. A lot of those medals are administrative. They got nothing to do with anything. They're just an admin. It's like the movie "I'm Going to Get You, Sucker," and they're talking about, oh yeah, I was military vet, and this badge, it's for the typing pool, and this one's for being secretary to the commanding officer. They're crap medals. And Milley was trying to walk around because his unit went into active warfare, and he's trying to say, well, I have a medal because, I was part of the unit, not in overseas. He didn't earn anything. So
yeah, a lot of it is like participation trophies.
Very much so. And we, thank God.
Yeah, and I just because I'm laughing because I say to myself, he was Eisenhower. This was a guy who was a grunt. This was a war fighter. The same thing with like Patton, the ultimate guy. George Patton had like 1/5 the amount of medals that Milley had on it. I'm like, that's what. So when you said how many, when you said how many generals were at that meeting, I'm like, why are there that many of them? Because when I sit and I look and I think of the general, I think of like this has got to be like the rarest. It should be in my mind the rarest breed. The rarest breed should get to rise to the. Oh God.
Well,
should rise to that rank.
But like in the Army, as an example, with 1.2 million people in service at any given moment, it's dropped a little bit under the Biden administration, actually a lot under Biden and under Obama. Now you're going to see recruitment go up because he's taking the Marine Corps approach. And the Marine Corps is the only service that's been maintaining its minimum recruitment requirements. Everyone else has fallen off. Why? Biden and Obama. But you will see it go back up. But what we're seeing with this is, God, I kind of lost myself. There's so much in this. I don't know. It's. I kind of lost my own track because I got sidetracked by my own. I took a tangent. I took a tangent there. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just sitting there looking. I was saying, like, I see these the 800 generals in there.
Now I know. Yeah. So in the Army branches into administrative and combat. So you got generals. You can be a general, but be pure administration. You can be pure administration and be a general in the Army, and that's the equivalent of being a combat general in the Army or any other service. It's ridiculous. I understand why they do it. I think it's stupid. I always did, but that's why I'm a Marine. I'm not an Army. And also why I was never a general. So there you go. But I thought the speech was fantastic. People in the audience can tell us what they think about it. I thought it was a beautiful moment for America.
All right. Well, we're going to jump off of that topic for a few minutes. And just this wasn't something I had highlighted, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that school administrator who turns out that he's a illegal alien.
Deported.
The one that got arrested this week for having thousands of dollars in cash and a knife and some other silly stuff while at the school. And this is a guy who's an illegal alien and the media said a registered Democrat.
Are you shocked by that?
Oh, I'm astonished by that because I was told that the illegal aliens, it's impossible for them to vote.
Yeah, that's what we were told. And then there's the reality, which they like to ignore or distract from or dismiss. Yeah, this guy needs to be deported. They're like, oh, but he's a great superintendent. I don't care.
Well, shouldn't she be deported after he serves prison time for the crimes that he's committed here in the country?
I don't want to spend more money on him.
Well, I figure, a little punishment would be good along the way. Not only kick him in the ass on the way out the door, but he's got to be punished.
You're assuming that I'm saying deport him back to his country. I said deport him. You can send him to Antarctica. You can send him to the Sudan. You can send him to El Salvador. I don't care. But deport him instantly. Take everything he has, any of the money he has, And yes, any investments he has, because they're all forfeit. Everything he has was not earned. Everything he has was only based on its principle of law. The root of the crime,
The
the
fruit,
root of evil,
right,
infects the entire tree.
right. There's
Everything he has
fruit.
earned,
Yeah, it's fruit. It's fruit of the poison tree.
yes. And so everything he's earned, everything he owns and possesses, everything, including his retirements, everything gets taken from him. He should be deported with the clothes on his back, done, and send him. I don't care where you send him. I do not care. He
Well,
leaves instantly.
it sounds reasonable enough to me, since the guy's been here for 20 some odd years and had more than enough opportunity. Hell, if he could make it through the system enough to become a teacher, a principal, an administrator, a school chair, whatever the hell this position the guy had, I'm pretty sure the guy had enough wherewithal to figure out how to follow the system that would have gotten him legal, because he been overstaying his visa since 2001.
Mm-hmm. He was abusing it because he knew he could, and that means he's dishonest. And what else? If he was so dishonest on that aspect of his life, what else was he dishonest about? And how does that dishonesty, again, the root, the poison of the tree, is how is that infecting the teachers that he would hire, the teachers that were teaching our kids? Because I would imagine he's going to try and be as a matter of self-preservation. He has to surround himself in an environment where people will not question his credentials, will not check his credentials, and therefore will not question his orders in terms of how to train and teach students and what they're going to learn, that curriculum. They're not going to, he surrounded himself with people who never once questioned anything at any point for 20 years. Therefore, there is a problem that he put into the system, and it continued to grow for 20 years until he got caught. That's a problem. That's an aspect of it
And,
people aren't thinking about.
and it also has to show you how screwed up the system is, that he was able to get away with it for so long, with being the fact that these are people that are put into positions of authority over our children. Mm-hmm. You would think that there would be some level of scrutiny and background checks involved when you are going to be responsible for the welfare of minors.
He's the one doing the background checks. That's the problem. He's
right,
the one doing them.
Right, but at some who polices the police? At some point, somebody had to give this guy the job. Somebody had to run the background on him in order to get to that point. And apparently, that phase of the operation failed as well. So again,
the person who did it, let's be honest, it was a leftist who didn't care about his background, his criminal status. They didn't care that a criminal would be around our students and that this person would be teaching our kids and what kind of consequence would come out of that. They didn't care. They were leftists. They said, fine. Maybe it was because of DEI. Maybe it was because they're trying to, DEI, something like that. Maybe it was that was the reasoning. I don't know. But it wasn't a conservative. Conservatives are known. What do conservatives do? We follow the law. We're law abiding. We enforce the law. So it wasn't a conservative, therefore not a Republican. Could have been a socialist, but most likely was a college upbringing, college environment, academic environment. That tells me it's a Democrat and a leftist, and he's a Democrat. Yeah, it was a Democrat, maybe progressive, maybe a socialist, but definitely a Democrat that gave him the job. And Democrats allowed him to advance. You would think the union would know. You would think the union, and he had to be part of the union to advance. Someone in the union would have to know, hey, that Social Security number is not real. And they never once questioned it. Think of, again, look at the branch of corruption here. Okay, so we've already found another route. The entire union is culpable because he's paying his dues as a teacher because he wouldn't be a superintendent if he wasn't part of the union. So he's part of the teachers union, which means they have a social security number on record for him that they didn't check and find out that it was illegal, it was false, or they knew it and didn't care because they wanted the money. So now how corrupt is that union? How corrupt are they? What other things are they willing to overlook and ignore just because they want the dues, because they want another member, because they want more power over politicians? What kind of corruption is going on in that union? No one wants to ask that question. Media didn't ask that, but I think it's one we should be asking.
No, you would think, but then again, this story will die. This guy will fall on his own sword, and that'll be the end of that, and no one will ever hear anything else of it.
True. They'll move right on by. Mm-hmm.
All right, speaking of things that people will probably never take any responsibility for, I understand that you guys had a little bit of excitement today in the Bronx.
Not really. Exciting for everyone outside the Bronx, perhaps.
Well, I just figure, when a big giant chunk of a building succumbs to gravity and falls off.
Well, no, it didn't fall off. It didn't fall off. It got blown off. It was an explosion.
It was an explosion.
Yeah.
So what happened? Because I saw something that said partial building collapse in the Bronx.
Yes.
And I saw that just 5 minutes before we went live tonight. So what happened?
A boiler blew up and the building fell apart. Okay. So the building in question is owned by New York City. It's part of the housing authority. And in New York, we call them the projects. In fact, I think in a lot of places around, it's government housing, which means projects. That's not a positive statement. In other words, it's the ghetto. They're ghetto buildings. And because it is New York City, and therefore New York State housing, they don't go through the same safety checks or requirements as everything else. The building had multiple code violations. But since New York City is the landlord, they became slumlords. The code violations pile up and no one cares. And they just let them be there. It would seem that some of the violations, at least 3 of the violations, apply to the boilers. Now, we went into October 1st, the city is required to turn on all the boilers starting October 1st because you have to heat for the winter. Okay. They turned on the boiler. It blew up. Why? We don't know. But boilers, like water coolers, if you ever saw the Mythbusters episode on water coolers, what happens if they explode? Well, essentially, same thing. Boiler is just a really, really big, especially when you're talking about for a project, when you've got a couple hundred people in the building, it's a really, really big water cooler, water heater. And it blew up. And it took out a side of the building. The miracle in this whole thing is, and I mean bricks were flying across this neighborhood. And the miracle is no one died, no one got hurt. Don't know how that happened. That's the grace of God. But the fact that it happened is because New York City housing is a slumlord. And now the news media is trying to minimize it because this looks bad for Democrats, because Democrats have been in control of New York State since 1958. This isn't a Republican problem. It wasn't caused by Republicans. New York City, like New York State, has been under Democratic control for over a half a century, almost uninterrupted in terms of the city. State totally under Democratic rule. So this isn't a Republican thing. It's not a conservative thing. This is purely Democrats and their disregard for codes when it applies to them. They didn't care about housing. So they tell you, oh, we love poor people. We got to help the poor people. They don't give a damn. They allowed this to happen. And God knows how many other projects across the city and probably across the state are in a similar state of disrepair and ready to blow up, and possibly, and the next one, we may not get that lucky. God may be busy trying to save someone else's life that day or that moment, and there's going to be an explosion somewhere else. And the Democrats are going to, oh my God, how could that happen? We let it happen because you went years upon years upon years of allowing the building to fall apart, go into disrepair, not be fixed, say, we need more taxes, and never use those taxes for what you said. We got to fix the housing. Yeah, but you never do. You spend it on illegal aliens. Gee, that $2.5 billion we were spending per year putting illegal aliens in 3- and 4-star hotels. Maybe we should have used a little bit of that money to fix the housing boilers so that they wouldn't explode like this is some kind of war zone.
Well, because I saw the trunk of that building come falling off of it today, and I thought I was watching something like a missile strike from the Ukraine. I was like, wow, that's pretty good. And speaking of spending money on illegals, let's talk about our last subject of the night. Let's talk about the government shutdown. I was actually,
Give me 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, so we were sitting there last night looking at the government shutdown, and apparently what the Democrats seem to be more pissed off about than the government shutting down is the meme that Donald Trump shared of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer standing at the podium with Hakeem Jeffries wearing a sombrero and a mustache as they're talking about the reason why they shut the government down is because the Republicans refused to capitulate on funding health care for illegal aliens. So, just to let you know, that's why the government is shut down. It's not because of education. It's not because of gun rights. It's not because of this, that, or it's not because of, women's reproductive rights. It's not for any of the laundry list of things that Democrats have always been champions of. And I mean that facetiously, of course. No, they're shutting the government down because Trump and the Republicans won't give them $1 trillion to spend on providing health care for illegal aliens.
Yes, that's one of the big problems.
Now, here's I have the solution.
Mm-hmm.
I have the solution, and this should be very, very, very easy for the Democrats to be able to get behind. There are 3 things provided to you under a certain set of circumstances: housing, food, and medical care.
Theoretically, yes.
Right? Those are 3 things that are provided to people who are being detained for criminal action. So if the Democrats are so hell-bent on making sure that all the illegals have health care, encourage them to self-deport, to go to a detainment facility, knock on the door and say, hi, we're here for self-deporting. Bring us into the detention center. You'll get housed, you'll get fed, you'll get the medical care that you need. Then you'll get a flight to whatever the hell you came from, right the hell back out of the country. Because I don't see any reason why we're going to facilitate giving people health care who are running around who shouldn't be here in the first place. If you want them to get free health care, send them to a detention center and we'll take care of them. We'll take care of their medical needs and then send them on their way.
Okay, and my answer to that is they don't get crap. They get a flight. That's it.
Well, that's what I want too. But
while we have them, give them enough food, give them a cot. Doesn't have to be a nice warm one. Give them a cot, give them food. Doesn't have to be a luxurious meal. It could be a bologna sandwich. I don't care. Put them on a plane, get them out. But
I'm talking about Band-Aids and aspirins. Right. I'm not saying we're going to go in there and treat everybody for their cancer, treat everybody for reproductive choices or whatever the hell they want to do, or their transmissions, get all of that taken care of for them. I'm talking about.
But Democrats believe they have to do all that because human rights.
Yeah, because they're here.
That's human rights. That's the UN. Yeah. It's the socialist point of view. They exist, so you have to give them your stuff. That's what Democrats are saying.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They're shutting down the government to basically tell American people, we are not here to make sure that your life is being improved upon. We're not here to make sure that the services that the government is required to provide for you, like your safety and security, as far as from foreign invasion, because the government's really not responsible to do anything else but stay the hell out of your life and stay out of your way. But that they're so willing to turn around and say, instead, we're going to shut the government down because we want to make sure that people who entered the country illegally, who have no right to be here in the first place, are going to receive better health care than an American citizen is eligible to receive.
But here's the thing. At least if they said that, I'd have respect for them being honest about what their agenda is. They're not. What they're saying, like Chuck Schumer, like AOC, what they're saying is people, not American citizens. They never say, notice they never mention American citizens. They don't even say Americans. They say people are losing health care.
Well, that's what Maxine Waters said. That's what Maxine Waters said. They asked her point blank, are you trying to get, health insurance for illegals? Just we're trying to get health care covered for all the people. For all the people.
Right. People is now replaced whenever you hear, for the audience, when you hear people, illegal alien. That's what they mean, illegal aliens. And they want to take your money and your possessions and give it to them because human rights, the UN human rights given by government that are only available as long as government thinks it's available, and they want to redistribute your stuff. This is Obama. This is transforming America. They want to redistribute what you have to those illegal aliens because they exist. They didn't earn it. They don't deserve it. It's not legal, and they want to do it anyway. Why? Because that gives Democrats, and this is the part no one really talks about, because it gives Democrats power. How? Let's throw out the fact that they want to give them a path to citizenship, an advanced e-ticket to ride into American citizenship, and therefore they're going to vote for Democrats for the rest of their life because they're a slave at that point. No. Throw that out the window. What do they immediately get? Why are they immediately doing this? Because the census has tied how many people exist in a state or in a district, not how many American citizens exist. And because they need the people, they need bodies, because California, New York, Illinois, Maryland, most of the bluer than blue cities, Massachusetts, are cities and states are massive exodus. New Jersey, people are leaving in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands. And so that means, and you've seen this, look at the Congress. New York is losing members of Congress. We went from 45 in 1958 to today we have 26. And if it weren't for the fact that Joe Biden said, count the illegal aliens too, we would have lost 3, not 1. We would have lost 3. And so that means New York, as blue as it is losing power. And that's why they want the illegal aliens. Same thing for California. They would have lost like 5 if it weren't for counting the illegal aliens. The power of Democrats would have been diminished. So to protect their power and their money and their donors, they have to count the illegal aliens. They need more in. That's why you saw Biden-Harris were so happy about 8 million illegal aliens entering our country, and they did nothing to stop them. In fact, they helped to pay for those hotels with your tax money, helped to pay for the hotels for these illegal aliens to live in. They helped credit cards for
look at where they funneled all of those illegals to. We saw all the midnight flights going across the country to this place, that place, this place, that place. Well, why are they sending them here? Why are they sending them there? Why are they sending them in this location? Because they were either trying to bolster the numbers of Democrats in a certain district by making that vulnerable congressperson get more power in that district, or they were sending them to purple districts to try and get them to turn blue by putting more people in those things. They were trying to jerry rig the system by putting bodies in there that would sway the sympathies of that electorate. That's why because they might not be able to say, okay, well, we're not importing voters because they can't vote, right? Because they can't vote, allegedly.
Theoretically, it has been proven they do.
Right, they can't vote. So why do you have to have them? Well, again, if you can alter the numbers that are in the population, artificially expanding them, then the census is going to account for it and attribute seats dependent upon what the demographic in those areas are. So that's what they tried to do. They need to bolster their own seats. Now, the country has been trending red. If we look at the electoral map,
I'd say center right, but you can translate that to red, but center right.
Well, if you look at the electoral map, county by county, district by district, there's a ton more red than there is blue. It's just that the blue is more concentrated into highly populated areas. So that's why you get a disproportionate amount of representatives in states like California, New York, New Jersey, and stuff like that. If they actually did it district by district the way they were supposed to, and it was an equal distribution, and we had the proper number of representatives based on the population and not based on the census, based on Americans, the whole congressional makeup would look a whole hell of a lot different than what it does right now.
Massively, yeah. They would lose a lot of power. They would dilute them.
Right. They would be deleted. They would be probably 7-3. That would be the split. 7-3 would be 70
in that range,
in and around that. So all of this has always been a scheme, and this is why I always say the Democrats have always been master of the long ball. They understand that what they're trying to do today is not something that's going to affect today, but it's going to affect the next election or the next election or the election after that. The problem for Democrats is that right now they have a commander-in-chief that doesn't base deals based on what he gets out of them today. He bases the deal based on how it's going to work for the company 20 years from now. And what is the long-term return on investment of the deal that you make today? Where you may say, okay, this might sting a little right now, but look at the profit we're going to anticipate in 20 years. You've got a president who's been playing long ball for longer than these politicians have been in office. Mm-hmm. So when he understands full well why all of these plans, why they make these deals, why they make these arrangements, and why they do the things that they do, because he's been doing it as a business model for 60 years. The guy knows exactly what the hell he's doing. He's been trained by the best. He knows business, and he's running the country as such. So he understands, this is why you're doing it. And he's not afraid to. He's one of the only ones so far who's not afraid to say, listen, this is not about, you don't care about the people. You don't give a damn if the only reason you care whether or not people live or die is because if they're alive, you can steal their vote in person. If they're dead, you have to go to the cemetery to get it. That's the only. They don't care if you're alive or dead. All they care about is the power of that vote that they get. Who you are as an individual, who you are as an American, what your rights don't mean a damn thing to any of them. The only thing they care about is the vote. And if there's not enough of you in that district, they will change your entire district by pumping in as many people as they possibly can to inflate numbers. To hell with what your neighborhood goes looking like after that, so long as they can get some extra votes out of it. They don't care.
Well, that's true. And to reinforce that, for anyone who would say, I can hear the people on the left going, but you just don't understand. That's not true. That's not real. Remember, the Bronx is pretty much, it is the poorest and also bluest county in all of America. It is poor and it is blue. In a city and a state completely controlled by Democrats for half a century. And like we just said, one of the buildings, a housing project controlled by the Democrats in the city and in the state, just blew up. And that's something that was predictable. They knew they had the code violations. They knew it was damaged. They knew that this was in disrepair. They knew this was a problem and potentially a danger. They were aware of that, and they didn't. They've had half a century. They could have fixed it. They didn't care because it doesn't matter. Why? Because it's the bluest county in all of America. They had the votes. They knew they weren't going to lose any votes in the Bronx, so they don't have to care.
I just don't understand. I mean, what is it with these communities that have been impoverished for so long and been under the same political ecosystem for so long? Don't they ever draw any conclusion to say, this isn't working? Why are we still poor? Or is it just that the check they get that is what's important?
You have a large portion of some of the bluest counties, which happen to be some of the poorest counties in the entire nation, in the Bronx in particular. You have a large population of people who are dependent on the government. They have been trained, sometimes generationally, to be dependent on a government handout. And if they're afraid that if they don't vote Democrat, they know, because Republicans and conservatives have been very clear, we'll cut you off. You have to earn something. Go ahead.
I watched the video that was so friggin' heartbreaking. Is this kid, he goes home and he's talking to his mother about how, he's going to go to college, but he wants to get a job for the summer, so he can save money to go to college. And the mother is yelling and screaming at him, telling him, no son of mine is going to go to work. You're going to get my Section 8 taken away from me. They're going to say we made too much money. We're going to take away our EBT. They're going to take away our Section 8. Mm-hmm. She tells him, this is a kid who's 17, 18 years old. You don't ever need no job. The government's job is to take care of you. Mm-hmm. That's what they're for. They got to pay the bill. And he's telling her, Mom, I want more for myself than living in this apartment, in this project. I want more for myself. I want to be someone. I want to have nice things. I want to have a house. I want to have a family. I want to have all these things. And she's telling him, under no circumstances are going to do that. We're going to do that because you are going to take away all my benefits.
That's true. She's right. She's not wrong.
And I know she's right in what she's saying, but how wrong she is ethically and morally, that she's going to condemn her own child to a lifetime of poverty.
You can't say that because she's not looking at it that way.
I don't care how.
I understand what you think.
I don't care how she's looking at it. I'm looking at it through the eyes of her son. Her son is saying, I don't want to be in poverty. I want more out of life.
And there are many people, well, not many, there are some people who say, no, I don't want, I want the American dream. I want more than what my parents had. I want to be able to do better than they did. But she's guilt tripping him because she was guilt tripped. And she was assured that the very best she could ever hope for is government dependence. This is generational. And this is why Democrats do so well, because some people are doing it because the grift, and it just makes it easy because they're lazy. But there are a bunch of people who have been trained that no, you have to protect the Democrats because they protect you. They guarantee that you get X. You don't have to do anything. You just have to vote Democrat. And if you break out of the system, now and they demonize everyone else. the Republicans are never going to hire you for a job. You'll become homeless, and the Republicans won't feed you, so you'll starve. And then you'll commit a crime to feed yourself, and then the Republicans will put you in jail. See, now they're demonizing all of that. They're wrong as well, because Republicans will say, here's your job, and you earn something, you get to keep it, you get to make your life decisions. Oh, you temporarily think about all the charitable giving that happens in this nation. Our charity in America is greater than what the GDP of countries, just from regular individuals, not government, not NGOs, just regular churches across America give more money away in terms of food and resources and money. We do more giving than some nations have as a gross domestic product of that nation. And many of those organizations, in fact, the majority are in fact conservative and or Republican, holding on to your God as well as your guns. The thing that Andrew Cuomo hated, the thing that Nancy Pelosi and that was derided by Nancy Pelosi and Hochul and Obama, that we're very religious, and those same religious organizations give to people in need. So they've demonized us and our charity, and the fact that we believe, it's almost universal, that conservatives, Republicans, we believe in meritocracy. I'd even say libertarians believe in meritocracy, and Democrats don't. And if you demonize the people who believe in meritocracy, and you demonize the fact that they say it's an open playing field, you put in the effort, you'll get the reward, and by the way, we'll help pick you up. We won't do everything for you. We're not going to go cradle to grave with you, but if you fell down, we'll pick you up. They have to demonize that, because that's better for you long term. They have to keep people in the current now. They can never talk about, and this is why Democrats and progressives, the left, never talk about the consequences of their policies. They only talk about the now. They'll talk about the past and tell you how evil everything in the past was, and they'll tell you about the now, but they will never tell you, and this is what happens next, because they know next is slavery, and it's absolutely miserable. They know it.
Well, I just watched that, and it's so disgusting to me, the fact that somebody could become such a minion of the government that they're afraid. And this woman is laying in her bed in a bathrobe with fuzzy slippers, 2 blankets on, eating bonbons or whatever the hell else she was doing, looking like a slob. And I'm like,
yeah, but the look doesn't matter.
No. It
in her house.
Listen, it does look to a certain. I know people that have lived their entire life in poverty, that don't have a pot to piss in, but still they get up every morning. They dress the best they can. They try to represent themselves in the best possible light that they can. They hold themselves to a higher standard than what they currently live under, because they try to project that image that they're doing well. Because if you believe that you're okay and you believe you're doing well, then maybe good things come with you. You can strive to be something better. There's something about believing in yourself.
Self-confidence.
To be more, all right?
Yeah, self-confidence is a big factor
right.
in that. Yeah.
Right. Why do people make their bed every day? It's the routine of doing extra, the routine of doing more for yourself. And here's this woman telling the kid, you don't ever need to work. The government is here will take care of you. Mm-hmm. And it's not only a matter of her telling him that he doesn't need to do anything so government can take care of him. She's telling him, don't you dare improve anything about yourself, because it'll hurt me. Fuck you. My child, who I should want the best in life for, who I, like billions of other mothers before me should have had to sacrifice a little bit so that my child does better. No, you, my son, my child, I will not permit to have a better life because you might ruin the squalor that I'm allowing myself to live in because I don't demand anything better of myself.
Okay, not quite squalor.
No, did you see the video?
No, but we're in America. It's not squalor. What we're talking about is, yes, it's inherently selfish, but then again, look at the progressive policies. Look at the socialist policies. They are based on being selfish. It is a matter of self-interest. Again, this is why it's about the current and the past, but never the future. Because it is only about the now, what I have now, and why risk what I have now as a guarantee for a future that is questionable, especially when I have to now put effort into that future versus the now where I have no effort whatsoever, and yet I have the things I need. And it's a difference of, it's the frog in a boiling pot. You put it on low flame and let it heat up, the frog will never jump out even when it's boiling to death. It's the same idea. That's the environment she's always been in. That's the environment she wants to remain in, and she actively will fight to keep that environment. And she doesn't think that she's doing something wrong for her son. Her son will be able to live a life with everything that he needs, nothing that he wants, but everything that he needs, and he will need to do nothing for it.
Well, I
understand why she's saying it. It's just wrong.
Right. And it's just that, I understand that, she wants to live that way. She wants to be taken care of. She wants what somebody else provides because she refuses to get it on her own. But to demand that the son have the same expectation out of life, instead of saying, you know what, if you want more, go get a job and move out. You won't be here. Instead of you jeopardizing what I have, you go out and you go get your own. You do what you got to do. She could at least have had enough decency to cut the cord and say, you're on your own, leave the nest and fly. But you know what it is with her? That's one more number under the roof. That means she gets a little extra in the WIC money.
Yes.
She gets a little extra in this. She gets a little extra in that. And
not WIC, but yes, she gets more government aid because there's another non-head of the household in the household. Yeah, and that's why there's no father in that equation. I am absolutely sure, because
and it's
that would remove the money.
Well, when Uncle Sam turned into Daddy, that became a problem.
Well,
all right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Listen. It's 20 minutes after 9. I only wanted to stay on for an hour. I am in so much pain right now.
No,
I got to get back to a laying down position for a little while because, against my better judgment, I am going to be trying to go to work tomorrow. I had a call out today. There was no way I was going to be able to stand around today and do my job with. I would have to have every one of my coworkers pretty much doing the physical end of my job for me while I just stood there looking pretty, and that would have been about it. So I'm gonna try my best tomorrow.
You lady charmer, you.
Yeah. All right. So listen. With that, I'm gonna say goodnight to everybody. Mike, give us a plug for your show.
No sound bites allowed. Every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I go live in about 100 countries around the world, talking about these kind of things and other issues for a lot longer than we've been here today, a couple hours, going into the details and answering questions from you in the chat on all of the issues that affect us. Been doing it for the Sunday live stream is on for 8 years. We're in season 7, episode 3. The next one will be episode 40. Please join us. You're more than welcome, no matter what your political affiliation. Ask any question you want to. Always happy to have you around. And also, please remember, like, share, subscribe. Not just to No Soundbites Allowed. Hey, to the Range Report too. Don't forget it. Don't forget Frank.
Yeah. all of that stuff too. Because I'm kind of fun to have around. All right, so with that, I'm just going to say goodnight to everybody. As always, you guys be safe, shoot straight. We'll catch you kids next week. Next week, we're going to have some updates on the Ultimate Alpha Challenge. The website is a couple days in delay in getting finalized. We had to do some graphic changes, so I didn't want to put it out there until it was absolutely right. But it will be theuac.com. You guys will definitely want to check that out. Things are coming along rather swimmingly. But little hiccup, me and my, I don't like that color. Well, I didn't realize that not liking a color was going to add like an extra, 5 days of coding.
I've designed websites before. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
you just changed everything because all the fonts. Yeah, I know exactly what they had to go through.
Yeah, I had two.
Bigger deal than you.
Yeah. Yeah, I had two things I had sent them a graphic for what I wanted the Ultimate Alpha Challenge heading to look like. They confused it with a different one that I had. So when they put that one up there, it wasn't the same one that I wanted. And I said, I need this thing to really jump off the page at you. So they're like, oh, okay. So now they had to redesign that. So it was a little miscommunication on my behalf. Only losing a couple days, not a big deal. But it'll be well worth it. Plus, they're doing a whole series of animations for it and a whole bunch of stuff. The website is like ridiculous.
Cool.
What these guys are putting together. So it takes a little bit of time, but hopefully we'll get that up for you in a few days and it'll be ready by next show. So until then, you guys be safe and shoot straight. We'll catch you next week.